Hello, everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek Aloud. It's a Thursday night. It's 8 p.m.-ish. And this is the Gaming Enforcement Agency. And we have a full crew this evening. Unky Dunky, how you doing, sir?
Mate, I'm good. It's good to be back after a couple of weeks off. I've done the house move and it's been busy around here, but we're all set up now and starting to play some games again, which is good.
That's the all-important thing. We've got to enforce that gameplay. And Bully's with us as well. Bully, how you doing tonight, mate?
Oh, I am doing very well. Missed the three of us together, so we'll see how we jump back into it for this evening.
Very exciting. Now, speaking of this evening, I'll take you through the run of show. We start off with the 6 games the three of us fellas have been working on during the week. We'll take a deep dive there, give you our full impressions. Then, of course, the overtime, a little bit of extra gameplay on the side. Then there's the newsroom. That's right, bunch of news stories coming your way. New releases for the week. And then it's the standoff. Unky Dunky, can you tell us, sir, what are the constraints for this week's standoff?
Mate, we're in the spooky season this month with Halloween, so we're looking at the best games to play during Halloween month, and we've got a good list, I think, here. The slightly newer ones. There's nothing too old on there, but I've got one that's I'm pegging as probably my favourite, but we'll have to wait and see. And if you're in the chat there, let us know what your spooky game of choice is this October.
Absolutely looking forward to it. And then finally, as Unky's just said, we come over to you in the audience at the end of the show. Any thoughts, comments you've got during the show, make sure to put them into the YouTube chat and we will round them up at the end. But, as we always do, let's start with games, interrogation. All right, first up this week, it is, of course, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2's keen, as that's sort of early access, apparently, from last Friday. Unky Dunky, sir, take the investigation. What have you got for us?
Oh, mate, well, first for saying this is one of the great incentives I think I find with pre-ordering. I think a game a week early, especially something like this with the campaign to get in, is a great incentive to get in and pre-order a game. I know a lot of people, don't like pre-ordering games these days as far as, all the, ancillary stuff they hand you and skins and all that. But I think a campaign a week early is a good reason to pre-order a game. And I'm glad I did. Like, jumping into Call of Duty campaign a week early has been a lot of fun, and my initial impressions were, Jesus Christ, this game looks good. Oh my God, it's got every graphical option you could possibly want. It's got a 120 frame rate mode as well, which is also silky smooth.
More importantly, mate, it's got a 120-degree field of view slider.
It does. I can't say I've rammed that as back as far as you do, but no, it definitely does. And it doesn't seem to hurt the frame rate at all as well, which is a lot of times if you do ram it back, your frame rate does take a hit. But I've noticed nothing but silky smooth frame rates throughout with this game, and it's just one of the best looking games I've seen this year. From that opening cutscene, the way the characters look and animate is just almost lifelike. It's one of the closest I've kind of seen sort of characters look as lifelike as this.
If I can jump in on that point just now, sorry, mate, but on the screen you can see here, this is the, was it Paris? It's a European city somewhere. But take a look at the level of detail here. This is the in-game engine. And just the detail everywhere, the amount of chairs, the amount of tables, cloths, sidewalks, trees, everything. The world is so detailed. To your point, Unky Dunky, it's really uncanny valley stuff, especially in those cutscenes. Sorry, mate, back to you.
No, that's fine. And then just starting the game as well, it's just like sort of being back in, sort of having a nice warm cup of tea. Like, it's Call of Duty as you sort of know and love. It's a bit more intimate this time around, I found, with some of these levels. They're a lot sort of slower paced and a bit more methodical. It's not your sort of waves of enemies coming at you and you just popping them and moving on to the next part. There's a lot more sort of nuance to some of these gameplays, especially in the early part of the game. I do have to call out an amazing moment at the start of the game. It probably has something to do with my brand new surround sound system I've got, but there's a moment, not really spoilers, right at the start of the game where you're navigating a rocket through some mountains, very Top Gun-esque style, and the sound effects coming through my system, it just sounded like this. I was literally behind this rocket, and when it exploded, I was kind of scared that the police were going to get called on my house because the explosion that came from these things was absolutely ridiculous, and the vibration through the walls. Like, I need to have you guys here just to experience that same moment that I did, because that, for me, like, I don't know whether it was the game or just a culmination of everything with the visuals and the sound, but I was just in from that very moment. But that was probably the peak. I've come down a little bit on it. I got to a point in the game where I was in the ghillie suit, so it's the kind of the part where they're doing this sort of slow sort of sniping area like they did in the original Modern Warfare 2, and it slowed down a bit, and some really poor checkpointing in that level as well, where you go through and you can do a whole bunch of stuff and then you'll get killed and go right back to an early part in that checkpoint, which I don't really like, and I did that bit over and over again. It was quite frustrating. Could be me because I'm playing it on a harder difficulty, so it's probably that, and it could be a bit of user error, but we all know I'm pretty good gamer. So I'm going to put it down to the game giving me poor checkpoints. But no, still thoroughly enjoying it. From what I've heard, a lot of people are enjoying this campaign as well that have played it all the way through. A lot of people have said it does have quite a slow start and picks up really, story-wise towards the end of the game, which I'm looking forward to getting to. So, no, I'm enjoying it. It's probably not quite hitting as much as that Modern Warfare 1 did. I don't think they're doing as much with the story, how they changed up in the first one as they are with this one. This seems like it's sort of hitting on the hits of Call of Duty and just trying to, make it look better. But no, I'm enjoying it. I'm really looking forward to the multiplayer, which comes out tomorrow.
It does indeed, mate. Can I ask you, or Bully as well, if anyone can answer me this, is this Modern Warfare 2 that they've already remastered, in 2019 or somewhere around there, they remastered, is this another retelling of that same story, or what are we actually playing? I couldn't work it out. It seems so familiar, but at the same time, I couldn't also rule out that it wasn't a brand new campaign.
Yeah, no, it is a sequel to Modern Warfare 1, and it's not a complete sort of remake of that first game. Like they are telling sort of similar story beats, but there is a different story in the background there. So it sort of does go back to Modern Warfare 1. So you're not playing a one-for-one remake of that Modern Warfare 2 game. But there are certain elements that are similar this time. They've sort of stuck more closely to in the first one. Like there's that whole gunship thing where you see you're looking down from the gunship, it's black and white. You're calling strikes. Very brilliant. But when you're playing it, just a slightly prettier version, which when I say that, how much prettier can it possibly be? Like it's a black and white top-down thing. It's not going to look much better realistically from top down. And I think it did drag on a little bit long in the tooth that moment. Like
really?
I did a part with it and I thought I was done, and then I went to a cutscene and I went back and I was doing the same thing again. I thought maybe if they had sort of alternated between doing that,
because it's 2 missions back to back, isn't it? That's right.
Yeah. So and you sort of up there the whole time. It would have been nice to sort of mix it up where they, maybe flirted with the idea of having you up in the gunship and then flicking you down to the guys on the ground and having you can see the airship flying around. Just something a bit more creative with that as opposed to just chucking into 2 back-to-back levels of the gunship stuff, which all you're doing is really pointing and shooting a rocket, and these bloody civilians always get in the way and you hit it, and then you get a hard you failed this mission because you shot a civilian. It's like, well, what do you want me to do? You're telling me to kill the bad guys on the ground, you got this giant gunship shooting rockets, you're going to have a bit of collateral damage. So, but no, there's a cool level I think you're going through. I think it's on screen now where you're sort of in Mexico and you're going through houses and you're kind of, just people that think you're invading their house because you're going after these bad guys and they're pulling guns on you and stuff. And like, you can shoot them if you want, but for me, it was, I think that wasn't why I was there to commit war crimes. It was so I would just hold my gun up until they sort of, put their gun away. But I think there was one moment where you could have had to shoot the guy. I think this is their moment, like in the airport scene. I'm not sure if we're going to get anything similar, but I think this is maybe just a small sort of scaled down version of that, maybe that sort of makes you think about killing civilians. But effectively you are playing as the good guy here, whereas in the original Modern Warfare 2 you were playing as the terrorist. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm excited to finish the campaign, and we'll definitely be getting that done very, very soon, I think. And
you're playing on PlayStation 5, is that right?
Yeah, PS5. I just enjoy the controller feedback for these most recent Call of Duty games. I love that haptic feedback, and I wasn't going to play it on the Xbox if I can get that experience on the PS5.
Yeah, perfect, mate. And how far through are you of how many missions, do you know?
I did check. I think I heard there was 17 missions, and I reckon I'm in mission 5 or 6. So there's still a fair bit to go, and apparently some are shorter than others. But as I said, the ghillie suit mission, so I'm not sure how far you are through it. I don't think Bully started playing it at all.
No, shake the head for Bully.
No, I haven't jumped into it. I haven't. Well, you know what I'm like. I need the physical copy, which doesn't come out till tomorrow. So unfortunately, the early access to the campaign only came with a digital version, which I just another death nail in the coffin of the old physical collector, I think.
Oh, yeah, they've got to force that price hike on us, mate. The only way they can do it is digitally. So from my side, I'm absolutely loving it. Second, all your thoughts there, Unky. But yeah, I was a bit confused by the story, but big shout out to me to I looked up his name and I don't have it now, but the guy who played Aaron in 24, I don't know if you guys were 24 fans back in the day, but they've done full motion capture of that guy, and he's from the opening cutscene throughout the game. And for me, it just was so Tom Clancy, so 24. I absolutely love it. Coming back to Call of Duty every year, it's like, for me, going back and watching a good old James Bond film. It's just a big dumb, here's all your big action set pieces, here's a bunch of explosions, and enjoy.
Oh, it is. And just that sort of that quieter moment. as you saw where you're in the water and you've got silence, you get your knives and you get your silenced pistol, and you're just sort of moving through it quietly. And there's not that if you fail that bit, then you're done. You can go sort of hide and still take on the enemies without sort of having that hard, if you failed this mission, which I really enjoy now.
Yeah. They have given it a lot more options, but to your earlier point, that was the one thing I noticed was there's a lot less enemies in total. I reckon.
Yes, yeah.
I reckon I've seen about half the amount of bad guys you normally see in any one level, which is a bit different, but still cool. Like, I just love everything about it. I haven't finished it yet myself. I think I just started the second gunship mission, whichever one that is.
Oh, yep.
I got into that, and that's where I bounced off. But yeah, the first 5 missions or whatever, you can see footage of it here from a couple of different levels. I absolutely love everything they're doing with this. It's a thoroughly enjoyable experience. And to your point, mate, I'm very much looking forward to the launch tomorrow and getting in some of that multiplayer action. Bully, do you know if your copy's arriving tomorrow?
No, I haven't ordered it. I've got a few. I'm away this weekend, so I wasn't going to get a chance to play it. And then I sort of started to have a look at some of the obviously we've had a few releases in the last week before this, and then the releases that are coming up over the next 3 or 4 weeks. I've got no idea when I'm fitting this in.
Fair enough, mate. It's an enjoyable ride for whenever you're ready for it. No other points from me. Unky?
Nah, I just have to you said about there's not as many enemies and stuff, but I just have to point out how impressed I've been with the animations of the deaths of the enemies. Like, they all seem to have sort of different animations when you shoot them or where you shoot them, and sometimes they might not fully die and they can still shoot you. It's just sort of small attention to details that Call of Duty sort of hasn't really been known for when it comes to its enemies.
Yeah, I agree. It's fantastic. Even that there, you said, like that, as you're saying, mate, the second mission or whatever, where you're attacking the docks, the throwing the knife in the blow, sometimes they'll fall off the pier, sometimes they won't, but if they do, the way they drift down in the water, everything about it. It's AAA gaming at its finest, I think. Big fan of it. Bully, no other points from you on this one, mate?
I probably don't much more to add. I haven't played it, so there you go.
Perfect. All right, then, moving on to number 2, and this is over to you, Bully. You're still playing some Plague Tale Requiem, I understand.
Yeah, punching my way through it, so I've sort of been jumping between this and the next game we'll discuss, but still really enjoying it. It's probably not quite as good as the first one, I don't think. They've sort of tightened a few of the mechanics up a little bit, but I'm not quite sure whether it's that the first one just took me by surprise so much, or it was something that was sort of out of left field. And I know we discussed it a couple of months ago. I was very late to the party on the original one, so I've still got the fairly fresh in my mind what it's like, and just sort of jumping into this one, whether it's just that sort of, it doesn't have that initial gleam to it that the first one did, but still really enjoying it. That the stealth elements are all still there. I reckon I'm probably 40 to 50% of the way through the story at the moment, and you're still progressing and unlocking new abilities and weapons and that sort of stuff as you're plodding along. So it keeps it fresh as well. So each sort of for those that haven't played it, it sort of combines stealth elements with puzzle elements, and there's the occasional a bit of combat in there, like direct sort of combat as well, and it sort of mixes all those together fairly well. So to keep throwing in every couple of levels, you might get a new weapon that you can use, or a new way to distract your enemies and that sort of stuff. It just sort of seems to keep it fresh as it keeps plodding along, and the story, I think we discussed a couple of weeks ago, it continues on from the first one. It expands on that, and you end up sort of covering a bit more terrain than what you sort of did in the first one. It's a bit more varied, and it's just more of the same. There's more puzzles and there's more stealth, which again, I know we like to harp on about it, but I don't think we're getting Splinter Cell anytime soon. So if you like stealth, I think this is a pretty good one to jump into. The only sort of thing is that, with a lot of the stealth games, if you get sort of caught, and you can always go into the almost the attack mode, and you can sort of generally fight your way through it. You can't do this at all in this game. You might get away with it once or twice, but once the enemies sort of lock onto you and start chasing you around, you're almost done for. So you really have to rely on that stealth mechanics and the diversions of the enemies and that sort of stuff. If you don't, you're probably not going to progress too far too quickly. And if you don't enjoy that, you're not going to enjoy this at all.
Although I enjoy what they've done with this one as opposed to the first one, where if you've got like a stick or a knife or something, they do give you that chance to sort of escape that first enemy that first time, or you can sort of hit them later in the game when you unlock some more abilities and stuff, like with the tar to the thing to blind them and all that kind of stuff. You can utilize all that stuff now, which is, I think, much better. It's sort of expanded the playground or plague ground, so to speak, of stuff you can do in the game as it expands. So I'm at a point now, Billy, if I mentioned you just met the guy that's on the barge. After you get through,
so I'm a little bit further past that, but yeah, I agree with you that you do get those extra things, but they're always in limited supply as well. So
yeah,
you might get the knife that'll get you out of one unintentional bit of combat or being spotted, and then you might have one or two pots of the tar that'll get you out of one or two, but then you've got nothing left for the next sort of half a dozen to a dozen sort of enemies. So if you burn those quickly, you're sort of really shooting yourself in the foot. And
that's right.
Which I was going to ask Unky as well. I don't know whether you've noticed as much. I remember noticing it to Troy as well. If you sort of progress through the level and you get to a checkpoint, so with a lot of stealth games that they'll have the enemies set up in certain positions. They've got their patrol patterns and that sort of stuff. And once you sort of work it out, you're good to go. With this, I found that if you sort of make your way to a certain point halfway through an area where there is a lot of enemies, and you die or you get spotted and you get killed, where if you respawn in the middle of it, they've actually changed where they're positioned, and to the point where you might respawn in an area that originally would have been a good spot, but now is terrible because you can't get out of there. There's 3 or 4 guys around you, and you've really got to work your way through it.
No, I definitely have noticed that. I do enjoy the whole you can restart a whole encounter, or you can restart sort of checkpoints and stuff as well. Like, I'd really like their sort of save system when it comes to that as well, because there are times there where it is just trial and error for a bit sometimes, where you're just trying to figure out what to do. I remember trying to save the alchemist multiple times before I realized you're not actually meant to save him, which was really frustrating because literally in the top right hand corner, it's like, save the alchemist. That is your objective. And I just could not figure out a way to do it. I'm like thinking to myself, there's no way I can actually do this. And so I have to look it up. I'm like, how do you save the alchemist? I'm like, oh, you're not meant to. Okay, cool. That was a waste of time anyway. But no, it's thoroughly enjoyable. I'm very impressed with the visuals of this game. I know Bully said frame rate not the best. I think on my TV I'm getting 4K at 40 frames per second, so it's slightly better than the 30. Which does seem quite smooth when you're playing another game that's running at 30 frames per second at the moment. The 40 seems silky smooth, but it's kind of got that Unreal 5 tech demo look to it. Like, it's very pretty. It's not fully AAA. Like, I think some of the animations are a little bit stiff, especially coming off something like your Last of Us and stuff like that, which is your full AAA. Some of it's a bit stiff. Like, you literally go from standing to crouching straight away. There's no sort of slide animation or anything like that. But no, really enjoying it. It's kind of more of a gamey ass game when it comes to its mechanics. You are thrown into sort of a puzzle area. You've got your stuff, and then you've got to get through it. There's sort of not much organic stuff. There's not really more than one way to sort of do what you're doing. You just got to figure out what that thing is and then execute it. So, but no, for what it is, I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the characters. I think the voice acting's better in this one. They sound slightly more English in this one than French, which you might.
Did they recast the woman?
No, that's a lot of people think they've recast, but no, both characters are played by the exact same actors from the first game. So whether it's a direction to maybe hit a more broader market, I don't know, but I didn't mind the sort of French sort of tongue they had in the first one, but they sound a bit more English now. It used to be in there, it's like, Amicia, and before it was a bit more French. Now you sound a bit more pommy. So, but no, for me, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's the last sort of 2 days I've been jumping back into this more so than our next game. But no, I'm very excited to see it through. I know this game is a much longer game than the first one, so I'm excited to see where the story takes us.
It will be good to get back to, but I haven't put any more time in from my initial whatever it was for last week. So, yeah, I haven't gone back to it. But I will get back to it at some point, but, when there's a lull, maybe early next year or something. For me, if we've no final points on that one from anyone?
No, nothing really. I'll just say that this one's just a much grander scale than the first one. If you sort of didn't like the first one because of its smaller scale, if you did like it, this one is much bigger. You go in a much more, unique and massive environment. Some of the vistas I've seen in this game already are just insane. It just but it's got me thinking how good bloody God of War is going to look if I'm playing this game and in awe of just how it looks. And, mechanically, it's sort of not going to be on par with something like God of War, but I'm just thinking how good God of War is going to be to play and look. Oh, I can't wait.
It's exciting times, but that brings us to game 3 this week, which is me. Now, because we're getting near the end of the year and people are starting to talk about game of the year, I thought it was time to fire back up the Xbox copy. So this is me dancing, and I've forgotten old mate's name. Godric or something, isn't it? Steve, help me out, Unky.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah. But for the first one, I don't know even how many times now he killed me. Steve, do you remember? It would have been a high number, maybe 50 times on the PlayStation or something.
Oh, did you beat him, did you?
Well, actually, now that I've said that, didn't you come in and beat him for me?
I did. I reckon I came in and helped beat him, but I can't talk. You've got the platinum, I don't. So
I was going to say I have to deject. There's only one of the two of you that's got the platinum.
Yeah, but we could argue that Troy would never have even finished the game without me. So
that would be a solid argument. But the point I'd like to make on this one is I got old mate on the second attempt this time.
Oh, nice work.
Second time through the game, it was far better. Far more enjoyable.
Great work.
But going back to Elden Ring, it really puts the other games in context because I hadn't touched it in a few months. And then I know we're going to touch on the next one soon, but we've been playing a few new games that should, by rights, be discussed at least in the Game of the Year discussions. And so it had been long enough. I thought I've really got to throw my hand back into Elden Ring just to see, because I remember it was great, but I don't know that it was great, if that makes sense. Yeah. But going back and playing it, you pick up that controller, you're straight back in, you're like, oh, that's why this is Game of the Year. So
gotcha.
The game still holds up, and I'd encourage both of you to go back and go hands-on just to remind yourself of how high the bar was set back in February, I think, this year. So Elden Ring, absolutely beautiful. Oh, the other thing I need to note, because it's been patched, obviously, since I last touched it, they've really helped out the new players with little UI elements and stuff. An example is the, what are they, golden seeds and then the tiers for the flask, to give more charge per flask and extra flask charges. Now when you pick up one of those, it's actually highlighted in the HUD, like when you go rest at I'm going to say bonfire, but they're not bonfires in this side of Grace. When you rest at the side of Grace now and go into that menu, it's actually got a dot on the flasks one saying you've got an upgrade to apply here. So
nice.
There's a little bit more hand-holding, which is nice. So if you're yet to play Elden Ring, it's probably the best time ever to jump into it. But no other real points other than I still love this game. I take it you guys haven't been playing and we should move on.
No, I've seen it still on my console, and I'm needing very soon to make room for certain other games on my console, and I'm trying not to delete it because I can see myself going back to it. But I know if God of War comes out and I need that space, I think Elden Ring might have to make some way.
Fair enough, man. I would encourage you just to put maybe half an hour into it just to refamiliarize yourself before you delete it, just so you've got it fresh. All right. Okay, speaking of fresh, game 4 this evening is Gotham Knights. Anki, over to you for the lead investigation.
Yeah, so I started playing this game almost directly after playing Call of Duty, running at 120 frames per second. So the initial result of me looking at this game was not great. 30 frames. But admittedly, it sort of warmed to me after a while. The more you sort of play it in 30 frames, the more it sort of, you kind of forget about it. Like, I think if you think about God of War 2018, I think in its first iteration was at 30 frames per second, and the gameplay didn't really hurt too much because of it. It's just because I've been spoiled now with frame rates on these next-gen consoles. But
spoiled, or we're getting what we paid for when we bought the next generation of consoles?
Yeah, probably that. But no, once you sort of you get over the whole 30 frames per second on PS5, I had to be honest, haven't really had many glitches. I've heard the Xbox and PC versions can be a little bit unstable with frame rates and stuff and frame rate hitching. So PS5 though, I've got a pretty steady 30 frames. I don't get too many frame drops here and there, and it's a very pretty game still. Like, I've sent you guys some screenshots during the week that are just gorgeous. Like, you sit there as Robin and look over the city and the colors and everything over the city. Like, a lot of people complain that it doesn't look as good as Batman Arkham Knight, which came out 7 years ago. Maybe that's from a design art standpoint, but in terms of the way the game actually looks, I think it looks really good. And you've got different districts of Gotham as well that do have different flavors to them. You got old Gotham and new Gotham, and I don't know what that was called, like, I don't know, middle Gotham or something. But I think that they've all got their own distinct flavors and all that, and there's a lot to it. Like, they've literally created 4 completely different characters. Like, some games might say you get 4 different characters you can play as, but they're predominantly the same. Gotham Knights, every character is like playing a completely different character, and I've found, my probably favorite character is probably Robin. and probably then Batgirl, then Nightwing, then Red Hood at the moment in terms of their abilities and the way they play. But I think for me, I was sort of a little bit middling at the start. I just started off as Batgirl because I'd heard she was the best and the most like Batman. But then when I flicked over, it wasn't until I flicked over to Robin where I started to really start enjoying the game, and the game started clicking, and then I started playing it more. Even the open world stuff started to seem a bit more engaging once I found a character that I actually wanted to play as, and working out how all those crimes work. And you get the intel to find the premeditated crimes, then go unlock your knighthood abilities, which gives you your sort of traversal mechanics for each character, which Robin's is a bit of a weird one. Initially, I didn't like it because I'm like, I'd prefer to be flying around the world as Batgirl and using the cape mechanic like from Batman. But I've kind of grown to like his traversal mechanic, which is this teleporting thing where you hold R2 if you're in the air, and then you pick a point on the map where you want to sort of, reappear essentially. So and you can change the height, or you can go low or high with it. So it's really good for actually looking for collectibles because you can sit above the thing and try and find where the hidden batarangs and stuff are. So really enjoy my time with this now. It's one of those games where, like, when I'm not playing it, I'm thinking about going back and doing things. And I was talking about unlocking the knighthood abilities. I've done it now for 3 of the characters, which usually involves going out and solving 10 of those premeditated crimes, killing 3 mini bosses, and then just doing one of the training tutorials. So it doesn't take that long. But sort of once you do that, that sort of opens up your gameplay as well. You do a couple of missions for trying to think what his name is. What's Morgan Freeman's character's name in Batman? What's his...
Yep, Fox. Lucius Fox?
Lucius Fox, that's one. You do a side mission for him, then that unlocks the ability to sort of go around the map and unlock fast travel around as well, which also sort of opens the game up and stops you having to ride the Batmobile. Some people say they don't like, or not the Batmobile, the, what's it called, the motorbike, the Batbike, whatever it's called.
The Batcycle.
Batcycle, that's the one. I actually don't mind. Like, a lot of people say that, it's not fun to ride. I actually don't mind the sound effects, and there's this weird, like, vision thing it does around the screen to give you the appearance of going much faster than you're actually going. I think the sound effects and stuff, if you're looking at the bike, it seems like it's going about 50 k's an hour no matter what.
I've got one question for you on the bike.
Yeah.
Why is there a brake light on it?
Yeah, I don't know, because you don't really need... Well, I don't know. It does have a cool drifting mechanic.
Well, it needs to be roadworthy. You don't want to get pulled over.
No, that's true. That's true. You don't want to be pulled over. That's right. Yeah. Can't solve crime at night if you're getting pulled over by the cops. That's another. I'll speak about the cops. I actually really like the fact that when you solve these premeditated crimes and you go there, the police will actually show up to the scene after you. And if you hang around, they're not really a fan of you being there. So they'll start fighting you, and they make those enemies, or they make the police very hard to defeat if you want to fight them, because I think they're trying to deter you from doing that, because you're supposed to be sort of, you know, building up the trust of Gotham now that Batman is indeed dead, which I'll have to say, one of the greatest. I can't speak more highly of the opening cinematic for this game, Bully. What do you reckon? And Troy?
The opening cinematic, I still don't think he's dead, but that's just my
I've still got to have thoughts, although there is parts in the story where they're talking about using the Lazarus pit.
Yeah, the Lazarus pit. They bring it up every 3 minutes. I'm like, I think I can see where this is.
There was the story that I've just had where they sort of mentioned the whole, like, Robin really wants to use the Lazarus pit, and they're sort of like, nah, maybe just grieve Robin. We're not going to do that, because he's talking to is it Tim? No, not Tim Drake. Tim Drake is Robin. Who's the one that got killed by Joker and brought back in Lazarus pit? It's Red Hood anyway. So he sort of deters him from that, because he obviously come back from it. So I'm not sure if they're going to use Lazarus pit again, though. I'm like Bully. I still don't think Batman's
they're just deterring him, because it's the opening couple of acts of the game. You don't want to be giving away the plot lines in the first hour or two.
No, true. And the plot lines are good so far. We're sort of getting to the thick of it now with the Court of Owls and the Talons and stuff like that, which I'm not sure how far I'm into the game, but the story is really picking up. And I think when you do start to sort of maybe get a little bit tired of some of that open world grinding stuff, like another story beat or side mission or boss encounter will come up that'll sort of just pull you back in. I think I messaged you guys during the week just about how cool the Mr. Freeze suit is. Like, it's something different that I've never seen in a suit, which I just thought was really creative. And it just, I was like, oh, they're actually doing something different. They're doing something different with Harley. She's not quite her normal Harley self, but she still is. There's a weird scene where you're trying to get something off her where it plays is it Livin' La Vida Loca?
Maybe, it was something like that.
It was. Yeah, it was like a female singer, but it was some rendition of that way of fighting. I actually didn't mind it. I thought it was quite, it was out of place and a bit wacky, but no, I quite enjoyed it.
It worked well. Now, Steve, I've got to thank you for saying to start with Robin. I was off the pace off this one. I think you boys started 2 or 3 days before me. But seeing your messages go through, I knew to pick Robin to start with. So he's the only one I've played. But I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with this game, 30 frames a second aside. My question for you blokes, because I haven't played any of the others, do they all have the grappling hook?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's that same mechanic? Like it works the exact same way for all the characters?
Yeah. Yeah, and
that is faster than the bat bike, at least with Robin. I went on the bike, and then I'm like, why would you ever use the bike? Like, just go Spider-Man it, grapple from rooftop to rooftop.
Yeah, and I think the grapple actually works quite well. I think the parts that it picks to zoom you to, most of the time it's exactly where you're looking, and I think it works pretty well.
It does work really well, and I've really gotten into the circle to drop before you're fully retracted, and then re-aim while you're falling, and just keep the swing going without actually landing. It's phenomenal. That minute-to-minute gameplay of that swing is so much fun. I love it.
And I can't speak more highly of the stealth mechanics in this. I think the stealth's actually done really well, especially with Robin. And some of the animations they've got for some of these characters dropping down, like even Batwoman, how she just drops from the sky and then it'll literally land on them with her leg and choke them out with her leg. And there's so many different unique ways to take people out that you never really ever get sick of seeing it or doing it. I think the sound effects are great. I think when you're hitting people with your bow staff as Robin, it sounds meaty, it sounds chunky, it's enjoyable. Once you sort of get out of that whole trying to play the game like a Batman Arkham game, because the combat is quite different. There is no counter move at all. Like it's all sort of timing, and you unlock special abilities when you hold your R1 to do your special abilities. And once you unlock some new moves in that, it can be quite cool, especially with Robin, how he spins his bow staff around really fast and runs at enemies. Or Batgirl, where you sort of hit her up and you smash the square button just to do a massive combo before jumping on top of their head. I'm really having fun with some of this combat, albeit Red Hood not as good as the others.
As I said, I haven't tried him out yet. Can I finish the whole game as Robin? Because honestly, I don't even need to inquire with the other characters. I'm having such a good time with him.
Yeah, and Robin is the stealth option. He's the stealth guy in this game, so he gets abilities that like the Batman, where you can string them up from certain areas and stuff that other characters don't get. Your Batgirl's got your more technological stuff, so she can hack items and turrets and can't be seen by CCTV cameras and stuff like that. And Red Hood's big, useless, and what's his face? Nightwing, he's more of the acrobat, so he's sort of jumping and doing flips, and you sort of get you can build up your special meter by doing evasive moves as opposed to actually hitting them, and it kind of looks quite cool. But I just prefer the way Robin moves around the battlefield and does his flips and stuff. I just think it looks really cool.
Yeah, and shout out to Robin's when he the interrogations with Robin and the stuff when he holds the bloke on the ground with the thing under his chin. That looks so good. I absolutely love it.
And completely unrelated to this, I also messaged you guys this week. I actually think this would be the perfect structure, especially as I mentioned, these characters are seeming very much like a certain foursome of Ninja Turtles. I reckon this would be a great structure for a great sort of dark, gritty Ninja Turtle game where you've got 4 Ninja Turtles. You can go out there, you do your random crimes, you've got an overarching story with Shredder and stuff, but then you can play co-op and bring other Turtles in. I just think this structure would be perfect for it, a big open world New York City with Turtles.
I can definitely see that, mate. Sign me up, 100%. What's the origin of this game? It was going to be a live service game at some point, surely.
Oh, I think so.
Like the thing that frustrates me is when you do the random encounters out in the world, just not the main story missions aside stuff. The fact that if you fail the fight, it'll reset and that fight or instance disappears entirely. Like that feels really live servicey to me, whereas I'm playing it as a solo single player game.
They come back though.
Well, what my point was, it just feels like they've got this live service debt that they're paying for no reason. Like, if I'm playing single player and I fail the thing, just let me restart the encounter. Like, I don't. That has to be a design play. From the live service thing, seems like a compromise made for assuming that it was going to be all online at some point. It feels to me anyway. But
I'm glad they didn't go that route as well, because it does sort of play like an open world RPG as well. Like you get a lot of RPG mechanics now and crafting of your weapons and like your melee, your batarang, or whatever you've got, and your suit. You can craft all different stuff, and they've all got different stuff with them. So you can add electricity abilities and ice abilities and stuff to everything as well. You can add mod chips to different weapons and suits to give you more abilities. So there's a decent depth to the combat and to the systems they've got going on. I just think a lot of people were quick to jump on the hate bandwagon just for clicks. I don't know. And a lot of people are speaking about the 30 frames per second again. Like, yeah, is it going to get a patch? Probably. Is it the end of the world? Probably not.
That's the point, man. If you can ignore all the hate online, there is a great game here. I am so enjoying my time with this. I'm glad I picked it up. Yes, I'd love 60 frames a second, but if you've at all got interest in the Batman series that we detailed pretty well last week, I reckon, Bully and the Standoff, like this feels like it fits in well with that. And it's a new game, so I love it. I'm really enjoying my time with it. Bully, how much have you played?
I'm probably not that far behind where Unky's at. I've probably, maybe 6 or 7 hours in.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it, but I'm sort of going through a few waves here and there. Like it took me an hour or two to get into it, and then I really enjoyed it for 3 or 4 hours, and now I'm just almost on a downward spiral again with it, and it sort of goes through waves just depending on what you're doing. And the frame rate for me hasn't been an issue. That some of the other things that I've sort of come across, we spoke about before about the different traversal options and stuff like that. So you get sort of 5 or 6 hours in where you're just sort of zip lining around and all that sort of stuff, and then you get access through Lucius Fox to a different method. I think it depends on your character as to how they traverse, but to be able to do that, you then have to go around the city again and basically nullify or reprogram these drones that are floating around the city. So it gives you access to fast travel, but you have to earn your ability to fast travel. It just seems a bit. If you had to do that from the get-go, I'd sort of understand. But to introduce it 5 or 6 hours in and then make you work for it, probably just a weird decision. But again, that some of this stuff you sort of, as you both said, it's if you're drawing it back to that live service sort of thing. You can sort of understand where they're coming from a little bit with that, I guess. It drags out the gameplay and it gives you something else to do. So
yeah,
I guess you've got to sort of take that with a bit of a grain of salt. But I mean, there's a couple of other things, and I don't want to sit here and.
Can I just ask you on the point? So it's essentially, the Assassin's Creed. What are they called? Viewpoints, vista points. The Assassin's Creed towers.
Yeah, so where you think where you are in Assassin's Creed. So it's sort of like that, but it's not introduced from the start and done as a matter of exploring. You're given your way of traversing the city for the first 5 or 6 hours. You think that's it, and then all of a sudden there's another mechanic introduced, but you're only allowed to use that mechanic if you unlock basically a viewpoint in each city. Is essentially for want of a better way of describing it. There's in each area of the city, you've then got to go on and unlock this viewpoint to be able to allow you to use this traversal mechanic in that area.
Yes.
And it's only confined to that area until you then go to the next area and unlock that, which is again a bizarre design choice for a single player game. But if you take it in the mold of a live for service, then you sort of understand where they're coming from a little bit, I guess. But as I said, I've sort of gone up and down a bit. I've really enjoyed it at times. I've been a bit annoyed about it. I don't know what your sort of thoughts are, having put some time into it, but just little things like with the combat having no target lock on it.
Yeah, I can see that.
And quite often what I've found, and what you'll notice is, and you might see it in some of the gameplay that's up here, with all the Batman games, when someone's about to attack you, that alert comes over the top of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So in this, the alert comes over the top of the enemy that's about to attack you.
Yes.
Which is fine if he's in your field of view, but if he's coming in from behind you, you've got no idea. You'll be in the middle of battling one of the guys, and you'll just get hit from the back out of nowhere, and you'll never see it coming. So again, just little things like that are just holding a little bit back from me. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Well, you're completely correct, mate. But the one tip I can give you is if you grab the field of view slider and crack it way out, there's less of an angle they can sneak up on you.
Well, I'll try that. I'll see how we go. And then, I mean, just a couple of, and these are like really minor points just to sort of drag it back a little bit. But, look, we talk about the zipline mechanic or the grapple hook mechanic and stuff like that. And I agree for the most part it works, but I did one of those premeditated crimes, and it was an armoured car heist where the armoured car takes off, and you've almost got to chase it Spider-Man style through the city.
Yes.
And I don't know if you guys have encountered this one. I found you really struggle to keep up with it doing this zipline mechanic. And one wrong move or one wrong pick of where you're hitting that zipline, you just completely, and the truck's gone and you finish. You don't even get anywhere near it. So, and if you make one mistake, it's done.
I've found it to be an incredibly generous system. I'm not sure exactly what you guys are talking about with this mistaken grappling. Are you using that? You know how like mid-flight, sort of the grapple hook, how the X jump prompt comes up? Are you hitting X at that moment?
Yeah. So, but occasionally, what I've found is you'll be sort of heading towards a building, and you'll think that targeting reticle is going to go to that next building logically in front of you. And just as you're about to hit it to zip to the next part, it picks somewhere else and you'll go flying off in a separate direction.
Well, I haven't experienced that yet, but I'm not sure. I can't speak to it.
Maybe you just have to get good, Bully.
I'm not even entertaining that. But I mean, some of the good things.
I know exactly what you mean.
Like some of the other things that I've really enjoyed about it, like the different costumes, and I know Unky, you spoke the designs before about Mr. Freeze and Harley Quinn and all that, and they're just a little bit different to what we've normally seen, and that sort of a lot of that sort of stuff, and even the playable characters and the costumes that you get and the little tweaks you can make and sort of that sort of stuff just keeps it a little bit fresh and interesting for me rather than just the same sort of stuff that you've seen time and time again. And agree, some of the story missions are really fantastic. That Harley Quinn one was fantastic. The Mr. Freeze one was fantastic. I think we're both sort of up to the similar sort of part where you're going with the Penguin or Cobblepot, and that's an ongoing sort of one at the moment where you're sort of learning about his background as a criminal and where he's at now and all that sort of stuff. So there's little elements like that I'm really enjoying. So again, the things that I'm sort of negative about, probably some of them are quite annoying to one or two of them, but most of them are just sort of nitpicky little things that you just probably need to be aware of going into it. But if you played any of the other Batman games, go into it with an understanding that it is not one of the Arkham games.
Yep.
And if you you'll really enjoy it.
What you're trying to say is Batman is dead?
He'll be back. He's just not going to play the same as he did in the other games.
No, I need to echo Bully's things. Yeah, like I saw these reviews come out, and again, I almost didn't want to pick it up, mainly because I saw, IGN gave it a 4 out of 10, which I think is ridiculously harsh for something like this. It's definitely not a 4. You play this game, there's a lot of love and care that's gone into it, and you see some of the
gave it a 4 or 5 as well. Like they were
it was both the big ones gave 5 and 4 respectively. I just don't see how it could get that. Like I think there's a better game in here than that. And I've seen a few streamers streaming this game that stream a lot of games, and even they're a bit higher on this game than a lot of the outlets are. So I don't know whether it was just a popular opinion to hate on it, or whether the review codes, weren't up to scratch, and we've had a day one patch that has sort of smoothed that 30 frames out a bit, because a lot of the hitches and stuff, even through Digital Foundry, that they were talking about some of the hitches, I haven't had any of those either. So I don't know. And just sort of echoing what Bully said about the cosmetics, it's one of the better cosmetic things I think I've seen in games. And when you're dealing with superheroes and stuff like that, it does keep it fresh. Like just changing an outfit sometimes can make the game sort of feel fresh again, and you're still doing the same things, but you're looking a lot cooler. Yeah,
I agree completely, mate. I think this is my 3rd or 4th Robin suit, and I absolutely love the way he looks in it. The first couple I wasn't taking at all, but this suit I reckon looks fantastic. Big fan. 2 thumbs up from me. No final points here, other than I can't wait to finish that story.
Same for me.
I was just going to say, the only thing and it's probably just in relation to those reviews, is what I said before, is I almost think that those reviewers have gone in thinking that you're getting another Arkham Batman game. And I sort of struggle with that, and that's why I said I struggle with it for the first couple of hours, because you're almost trying to think, this is going to be similar, but an expanded roster and different story and all the rest of it. It's completely different to those. And if you haven't played it, you're sitting on the fence. Go into it with that mindset, and you'll really enjoy it.
How about this? Would it be fair to say that if you have played, what was it, Marvel's Avengers, the absolute bombed Avengers, this is like a good version of Marvel's Avengers?
Well, I don't know, because I actually really enjoyed the campaign for Avengers as well. I think Avengers falls down when it became the live service stuff and grinding out characters towards the end. So, story-wise, stuff, I wouldn't say it's a good version of that, but it's definitely doing things just as good and just as compelling.
I'm saying moment-to-moment gameplay, I always felt like Avengers was lacking, but the moment-to-moment gameplay in this is it's perfect. I really don't have any objections to the minute-to-minute gameplay of this here. I think it's an absolute gem, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. Bully, do you know if you'll be finishing this one before you move on to something else, or will this sit back for Call of Duty maybe?
Not sure. Well, I think I'll be pushing Call of Duty back for it, to be honest. I'm sort of jumping between this and Plague Tale, which is probably not a bad thing. And I know we've spoken about 30 frames per second. So if you're going to bounce off those two, it's probably not a bad way of doing it before you jump, 2 or 3 times that frame rate. As I was discussing with Unky before, you look at a stacked release schedule coming up over the next sort of 5 or 6 weeks, and I sort of want to keep playing through this. I don't think it'd be one of those games that if you put it down and jumped into anything else for an extended period of time, I'm not quite sure that I'd get back into it. But while I'm enjoying it, I think it's worthwhile punching through with it and seeing the story out and seeing how it plays out.
I've no idea. Have you blokes read anywhere? What is the sort of mainlining, the main story completion? I'm not talking 100% here, but if you want to see the main story of Gotham Knights, do you know how long that is?
I'll tell you.
Oh, Bully's onto it. What about you, Unky? You going to finish this one off before Ragnarok gets here, do you think?
I reckon I'll give it a fair shake. I reckon it's a fair bet.
Yeah, I can't see dual fisting this and...
No, it's going to be very hard.
Once we start throwing hammers around and they're coming back to us...
Oh, that's it.
Gotham Knights
at 120 frames per second, Troy. 120 frames per second.
It's going to be amazing. How we go, Bully?
Still muted, Bully?
Sorry. Bet 20 hours for the single...
Oh, perfect.
Without any of the side stories and collectibles and all the rest of it. So
that's good.
You jump in all that, you're probably looking at, depending on how good you are at finding them, maybe 30, 40 hours.
Yeah.
So 12 hours for me then. Pretty good.
And coming in about 150 for me, I guess.
All right. It might take you a bit longer, Unky, because you need to get your hand off it. It's a two hands for the controller, this one.
All right. Game 5 this evening is Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Unky, has it sparked your hope on your Switch, mate?
Oh, it has. I was a massive fan of the first game, which sort of, took me by surprise. Not expecting to think that the Mario and the Rabbids should ever go together. The most unlikely pairing, and it turned out to be a wonderful little game they did. And one of the best looking games on the Switch, I think, to date as well. Still, in terms of its art direction, the way it looks. That's one thing about the new one that you notice straight away is it doesn't quite have the same look as the first one. It's got a very
art style wise.
Yeah, very different art style. And I thought I was going crazy, but I actually did just watch a Digital Foundry video on it today where they did go into depth about the new art style and stuff. And you look at it, it's vastly different to what the first one looked like, and you can see why, because the game now, I think if you remember the first one, it didn't really have it like the open world, inverted commas, area before when you weren't fighting was kind of just on rails. You'd sort of walk from one area to the other. It all looked really pretty, but now it's more of an open world adventure game outside those levels. So you've actually got side missions and stuff you can do. You've got different characters to meet. You've got puzzles to solve. You've got little levels like Toad's treasure hunt stuff to do as well. You got coin things where you got to try and find you're going to hunt down the blue coins to unlock a red coin or whatever. Yep. Like there's a whole bunch of different things outside the main story, which I think is really cool. And you couldn't do that. I don't think the Switch could handle it. In fact, I know the Switch couldn't handle it in this open world setting. And I will talk about with Bayonetta 3 and what that looks like on the Switch soon. But I've been very, very happy with my first initial gameplay. So I've only sort of got up to the first boss. But automatically the combat's smoother. You don't have a grid that you're walking on. Effectively, you probably still effectively do, but you can move freely throughout that grid now. Just walk around. You're not sort of confined to sort of squares to move on, which does elevate the gameplay. You can you've got these team jumps now where if you sort of get to a character, you can jump up and then you can position yourself up behind enemies and you can do all this stuff before you even have your shot. So you can do like melee attacks effectively to take out 3 bombs in a row, and then if you want, you can pick one up and then throw them at enemies. So there's all this stuff through through the combat now, which has just been expanded, and it's really cool. The way they animate the characters is really cool. You get a little bit sick of seeing the slow motion takedown things every time you do one, so you can turn that off if you like. But the animations are really cool. You've got like Rabid Peach, that's just hilarious the way she struts around. She's always on her mobile phone like a millennial. It's they have some fun with that, which I quite like. But no, I can see myself getting stuck into this. I need some more time off to play it because it is like a tactical game as well, like your XComs and the next game on our list, Gears Tactics as well. But it's just a really enjoyable, fun game. Like you're out now set in space. There's this whole overarching story now. I think Yoshi is no longer in this game. There was a couple of other characters omitted from the game now.
From a narrative standpoint, does it follow on directly from number one?
No, it seems like completely different. Like there's a few things that happen at the very start of the story where it just takes you to a whole new place, and you're sort of now dealing with these new sparks. That is why the game's called Spark of Hope. But you've got these little, they're kind of half rabbit, half little starry things from Mario, and they give you special abilities now. So the ones I've got now, I can light enemies on fire, but there's other ones that can like turn you invisible if you want as well. And there's apparently, I think it's like 30 of these different sparks you can collect, and you can have 2 equipped to each character at any given time. Which is cool. You go into battles, I think, with up to 3 characters. You can swap and change them however you like and pick your playing style. Like your Luigi's like the sniper. Mario's essentially like Star-Lord with his 2 dual pistols. And you unlock this brand new character that I've just sort of found. She's got these sword attacks that she does as well. But it's just fun being able to explore the world and find hidden chests and get all this stuff for your characters. And yeah, I haven't put a whole lot into it. From what I've seen already, I've been really sort of stoked and it's what a proper sequel should be. Like it's bigger and better in pretty much every way, except for that graphical art style, which, as I said, there's no way they could pull that off in with the breadth they've got going on in this game.
And are you playing this handheld or on the big monitor?
But on the big monitor, which is another thing, like a 77-inch Switch game these days, it cannot look quite good. I haven't tried it yet, but I imagine it looks much sharper on the old Switch OLED.
I expect, yeah.
And I think that was one initial thing. I looked at them, I just don't remember I just feel like the other one just looked prettier in most ways. But no, it doesn't take away too much from it, really. Like when you start actually playing the game and seeing the quirks of the characters and the way it's animated and just the gameplay itself being so much better and more advanced than the first game, this one seemingly does seem a bit easier than the other one. The other one got really tough at certain points. So maybe that's because the breadth of options in the combat now is so much more vast. You've got so many more options that it does seem a bit easier, but I mean, that could be the fact that I'm also chucked it on easy because I didn't really feel like having a really complicated experience with a game when I've got so many other games. And I know this game's apparently 25 hours long or something, and I don't really have time to sort of be grinding away. I just want to sort of get through the battles and enjoy the time I'm having with it without sort of thinking about it too much.
Yeah, fair enough, man. I love it. It sounds all things good. Have you got any knocks for it? Is there anywhere they've fallen over?
Not so far. As I said, it's very early, and I know stuff's even going to open up even further. Some of the reviews I've read, I know it's even going to get better from what I've got. So my only knock literally would be probably the downgrade in art style. It's not so much the graphics themselves, just the style. I think I preferred the way the first game looked, but again, I'll get over that.
Yeah, fair enough, man. I love it, but no more questions from me. Bully, anything from you on this one, mate?
Oh, Bully is away at the moment, I think.
Oh, well then, let's move on, shall we, Anki? Game 6 this evening is Gears Tactics. It's an absolute treat. I believe, oh gosh, I looked it up and now I'm blanking on it. You might be able to help me, Anki, or not, but I believe it was 2016. It may have been 2017. It was released, so it's years old at this point, but I'd never gone hands-on with it. It just happened to be that they put it in as a quest on the, what do you call it, the Game Pass Ultimate. You know how there's the weekly, monthly, whatever quests?
It was 2020, Troy.
Really? What was I looking at then? I must have looked up the wrong game. Gosh knows what I looked up. But my point is it's not brand new. It's not out this year, that's for sure. But yeah, as I said, that Game Pass Ultimate, the quests in there were able to draw my attention to it. And I'm so glad they did. To your point, Unky, it's very, turn-based strategy like Mario Rabbids we were just speaking about, but it's thoroughly enjoyable. I don't know if they've been on screen yet, if you've seen it, but I love that it's like, this very wide isometric camera, but then it comes in for the tight stuff, like when you chainsaw someone in half or whatever, it really comes in and gives you that standard Gears 5 or, Gears of War look, and then it pops back out for the tactical map. So I'm only maybe 2 hours in at this point, but thoroughly enjoying it. If you've got Game Pass and you haven't looked at this one yet, it's a tactics game that's highly recommended by me. Unky, did you manage to go hands-on with this one today?
Yeah, I did the initial tutorial level, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
It looks cool. It was great, but my issue I had was I had come off playing Sparks of Hope, which I think just gives you a lot more options in that sort of combat stratosphere of where and how you can move. It seemed a bit restrictive going from something like Sparks of Hope that has sort of innovated now on that tactical kind of shooting, where this sort of seemed a bit slow and stuff. I like the grittiness of it, but it's just, I don't know. I got to a point where I got swarmed by enemies. I'm like, no, I'm going to chuck on Plague Tale. Let's keep playing that instead. But I did like what it was doing. If I'd played it back in 2020, it probably would have hit home a little bit more. It is a bit more XCOM-y in the way it plays. It's a bit more tactical than something like Sparks of Hope. But yeah, as I say, it's just hard going from something that I had a bit more freedom with my tactics and stuff to this was a little bit more restrictive. But I do like the way it did play and looked. So, but I won't go back to it. But it was cool for the 20 minutes I played. Yeah.
No. I think if I was going to jump onto one, it'd be Sparks of Hope. But again, time is limited, and the backlog is piling at this stage. Just a hell of a lot more of my time I do not have.
No further overtime. I mean, most of my overtime was spent playing all the games I've already spoken about. So nothing extra for me at this point.
Well, much like you, I'm just going to do my weekly reminder of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It goes on and on and on, and I'm still enjoying it. If you haven't played it, jump on it. It's on Game Pass. It's free.
I just have to point out ahead of its release, because I don't know if I've been on the show since God of War went gold and gave the old told you so. I'm not 100% sure if we did that, but yeah, it is coming.
10 days to get delayed. It'll get delayed. It'll get delayed.
It's not getting delayed. No, so yeah, it seems like obviously the review or preview codes have gone out quite early. A lot of YouTubers have gone up and they've played the first 5 hours of the game and given their initial impressions, which seemingly the game is amazing. With most people, a lot of more of the same but better, which is kind of what we expect at the start of the game. I don't think we're going to see any twists or turns until the full game's out anyway. So I believe that they'll have a few things up their sleeves, I think, with this one. But just be very careful. There's more of a PSA, just be careful out there. There's spoilers. There's people that are probably doing it deliberately. There's people that don't know what they're doing and accidentally, having it out there for people to see. And we just don't want another Last of Us 2 thing where, we find out that Kratos is dead or something. Had his head hit in by a golf club or something like that. That'd be heartbreaking. But no, so just a PSA, be careful out there. God of War's coming. If you don't want spoilers, stay clear of anything on YouTube and Twitter.
Troy, sorry, mate. Just to interject there, you're not. I'm just getting told through the chat you're not coming through on your audio on the stream. I can hear you, but it appears our others can't. So if you want to try and rectify that, I'll just jump in if you like. And Unky, Fallout 4, the PS5 and Xbox SX upgrade.
Yeah, so this story comes from Darren Bontes from IGN. He's reported as a part of Fallout series celebrations, Bethesda has announced that Fallout 4 will be getting a current-gen update for PSC, PS5, Xbox Series X, as well as several bug fixes and bonus creation club content. So it appears like it's following the trend that a lot of games are doing and releasing next-gen versions of games with your either 4K or native 4K and 30 frames per second or a performance mode. We've already been a bit spoiled because I'm pretty sure Fallout 4 runs at 60 frames per second in back compat on the Series X already. So I'm not sure if I'm clamping at the bit to upgrade a Fallout 4 to a next-gen edition with that back compat mode already. But, why not? If it doesn't cost them too much to do it, I'm sure there's plenty of people that love Fallout that would like to see a next-gen version of that game. And, if it doesn't cost us anything, it's a free upgrade, then I'm all for it.
Well, I do like to question where they say there's some bug fixes. Which one of the billion Fallout 4 bugs are they fixing?
Right, they're fixing 2 out of the 455,000.
If I can just say a few words, I'm pretty sure I've got this fixed again now. So hopefully it's working, and I apologise to everyone for the break. Hopefully, Bully, maybe you can confirm for us it's working. Unky, I'll ask you, mate, has there been an indication, have they said why they've gone back to do it?
Not really. I can just imagine it's a monetary thing. I don't know. Like, it's what else they got cooking? They've got Starfield coming out next year as well. So maybe it's just to whet people's appetite, get them back into that sort of genre of game and make them realise how much they like a Bethesda sort of open world RPG before Starfield drops. I'm not sure, but there's nothing in here that suggests sort of why they're doing it. Maybe there's been an upsurge in. It seems like Fallout 76 is still going and is still adding stuff to that. So maybe it's to get people across from that to while it's still hot. I don't know, but
would you think, could it be Microsoft publicly playing nice with Sony while the acquisition is still happening?
Sure.
You and your conspiracy theories, Troy.
He's got that. You go squint. Has he got the tin hat on? No, not
it doesn't look good on camera. I don't wear it on camera.
No, fair call.
I'm just waiting for that river to change to a big X and Scully and Mulder to come tripping over.
Bully. So, were you able to check it? Are we all good now?
Yep, all good. You're all back and good.
Fantastic, mate. Thank you. My conspiracy theory, this is one of those undiscussed concessions that Microsoft are making. That's what it smells like to me. But no one else wants to play that game, so let's move on to story 3, shall we? Microsoft's gaming division reports record Q1 with hardware revenue up 13%. My goodness, Microsoft appear to be growing. And more growing.
I think just to add to that story, late today we've heard rumour and innuendo, and it almost seems to have been confirmed by Phil Spencer at this stage that at least the cost of Game Pass is going to go up at some point in the very near future, and also potentially the cost of the consoles themselves. So that'll obviously add to that profit margin that they're looking at.
I love the way they let Sony go first and cop the black eye, and then they've just followed them, a month later? Oh, yeah, we're doing the same thing.
Yep. And so this story comes from Andy Robinson of Video Game Chronicles. To read from there, it's on Tuesday, the company published its results for the first fiscal year ended at September 30, 2022. According to the company, Xbox hardware revenue grew 13% and gaming revenue grew slightly at 4%. Meanwhile, Xbox content and services revenue declined by 3% despite growth in Game Pass subscriptions. So I find it weird that Game Pass is losing money, but it's still probably making them plenty of money, I imagine.
Well, I think we discussed you and I, Troy, last week. I think the issue is that if they were running the same service they were last year, it probably would be making money. But the fact that they've gone out and acquired Activision, Blizzard, or they're in the process of, they've previously gone out and acquired Bethesda, and they're still having to pay for independent or third-party games to get them onto the service is clearly costing them a lot more than what we'd initially anticipated to keep that churn of new games coming on and trying to, in some cases, beat Sony to the punch on day one releases for third-party sort of stuff. So it's clearly costing them a hell of a lot of money to put that stuff on there that is eating into that Game Pass revenue, even though it's growing at some degree over the or since its launch.
Do you know how they're going to make all this money back?
Well, just pop the tin hat on and then you can tell me.
It's when Game Pass comes to the PlayStation 5.
No, that's not happening. I initially thought that might be on the cards, and but I reckon Microsoft will keep that nugget to themselves somehow.
No, what you're witnessing
come to the Switch, to be honest with you. But the only issue is the Switch won't be able to handle what's going on there. I think
it'll run xCloud just fine.
Well, I reckon the next Nintendo console, whatever that is, will launch with Game Pass alongside it, because it will then have hopefully the graphical and processing capability that would be required to play that sort of stuff.
That's a fair call, mate. Absolutely fair call. Next story for this evening. CD Projekt is making The Witcher, and this is The Witcher 1, isn't it, in Unreal Engine 5.
Yes, again from Andy Robinson Video Game Chronicles, CD Projekt announced that fully-fledged remake of the original Witcher game has entered production, and yes, it will use Unreal Engine 5. So this is huge. I think it'll probably coincide a release maybe with another season of The Witcher on Netflix, probably just to get the most out of it. But very excited to see a revamped version of the first Witcher. If they can sort of, harken some of that gameplay stuff from number 3. Obviously, 1's a much older game, but if they can do a proper remake and have it look as good as it will in Unreal Engine 5, sign me up, and I know Bully's going to be all about it.
Oh, 100%. And this is only the original Witcher was a PC only release, so it hopefully be the first time it comes to consoles. Obviously, the number 2 I think was an Xbox 360 only release, but so fairly limited audience that this one's reached. And it was an obscure title back then, and having it on the PC is an obscure title, sort of went past a lot of people. But if they can make this look half as good as with the new tech as what they did with the old tech on The Witcher 3, this will look amazing, and quite clearly they've got the storytelling and chops to put something together, and hopefully the gameplay again is as up to the same sort of level that we saw with The Witcher 3, and if it's all that sort of put together, they've got another hit on their hands, I think.
That's right, and if that does well, you could just imagine they just keep rolling it into a Witcher 2 remake as well, and Unreal 5 as well. So, I mean, the world's their oyster. I think it's a franchise that everyone sort of loves now, and I mean, the books have always been good. The games have been great, but then the fact that the TV show came out and was just as good and got people back into Witcher 3 as much as it did, the fact they're going back to this, I think, is a great move.
What do you reckon our chances are of getting a Witcher film with the same cast from the TV show?
I don't
know.
Going
pretty well, though, isn't it?
Yeah, show's going pretty well, and I think the story you want to tell, I don't think you could tell in a movie. I think it's easier over a TV show. So especially the Monster of the Week kind of thing, it'd be very hard to do a movie. The movie probably end up going for 5 hours. You might as well make a TV show anyway.
All right, then how about a what do you call it? End runners. What's it? I'm blanking on the expression.
Anime?
Thank you, anime. Yes, The Witcher anime. How would that go, you reckon?
That'd be going well, I think.
I reckon it would, because you'd be able to get that almost, not that it really needs it, but an almost comical sort of look to some of those creatures, and you can really play on that sort of style of thing. I think would look really good.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. Sign me up if they ever do it. But yeah, there's no date though, is there? It's just it's start of production. So see it in what 2028?
Oh, yeah. Bear with us. It's going to take a while. So,
given
that they've been talking about The Witcher 4 for 6-7 years since number 3 released, and we haven't seen hide or hair of that, I don't think we're going to see this any time in the next sort of 7 or 8 years. I wouldn't have thought the way they're traveling.
No.
And is there any word yet of The Witcher 3's PS5 Xbox Series XX version? That was meant to be this year.
Yeah,
there's a tweet that came out this morning that I think that they were saying soon with a wink and an emoji.
Yeah.
Sort of nod. So there's been a few. It was always supposed to be released this year, so I reckon we're going to get an announcement, and it will be released before the end of the year. If not, they've probably got some explaining to do, because they've been dragging that out since. I think it was originally supposed to be released in March or April, and they've been dragging
that's right.
out and out. So, but having said that, we all know the state that Cyberpunk came out in. If they release the PS5 / Xbox Series update in anything other than bug-free stellar form, I don't think that their stock and investors would take the hit again.
No, I don't think so. All right, then. Story 5 this evening is from IGN. Batman Arkham Studio co-founders leave Rocksteady. What?
Yeah, it's comes from Joe Scribbles at IGN. Rockstar co-founders Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, who helped create the Batman Arkham series, which we've talked about extensively, as well as the upcoming Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, are leaving the studio for a new adventure in gaming. So, it's crazy. Like, these guys have brought us some of the best games, superhero games we've got. Suicide Squad's still not even out. It looks like they just want to go off and do their own thing now, maybe create a brand new game studio. I'm hoping they're going to. What does that mean? They're going to create a new Batman game for us? I'm not sure. Or are they scared how Suicide Squad's going to go, so they're jumping ship before it comes out? Who knows?
Who knows? Time will tell. It's fascinating, all these movements. Maybe they've gone to work with Bonnie Ross somewhere else. Has she announced where she's landing yet?
Yeah, I don't think so. But it'd be good to see what these guys come up with next. They've obviously been around for a while now at Rocksteady Studios, and the fact they're leaving together makes me think they'll be collaborating on something pretty cool in the near future.
Yes, indeed. Well, fingers crossed. Let's hope for the best on that one. The final news story this evening, once again, Video Games Chronicles letting us know that November's PlayStation Plus Essential Games have been confirmed. Nero 2, Lego Harry Potter, and Heavenly Bodies. Now, Bully, I believe in the past you've praised Lego Harry Potter. Was that your favourite Lego franchise?
Oh, I reckon they're all pretty good. I'll be brutally honest with you. Not sure it's my favourite. It'd be close to. Either that or Lego City. But you get the double pack, so it's basically 2 games in one that were released originally on the PS3, Xbox 360. So,
and do they? Yeah, and Nero 2, obviously a Soulsborne-esque game, a lot of fun. I enjoyed that one, but I have no idea what Heavenly Bodies is. Do either of you guys familiar with this one?
No.
No, not at all. It almost looks like one of those, almost an indie type game, to be honest with you. But I haven't really looked into it. I only saw that they'd released. This morning.
I feel like this is the first time in a long time that there's been a PlayStation Plus game that I've given away free that I've never even really heard of before. It seems like they're really stretching for some of these titles.
Scraping the old barrel.
Yeah. It's almost just like they don't want you on this service anymore. They want to push you up to a higher tier or something. Bizarre. I wonder why. All right, then. That's it for the news. As we always do, we wrap the segment up with this week's new releases. Do I have a volunteer for reading them out, please?
Mate, I'll do it. I'm going to go through them quite quick because we're semi-pushed for time because one of us has got to go to work tonight. But I'll run through real quick. We've got this week, we've got Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Mike, and the Quest for Stale Gum. It gets a award for longest title this year in a video game. That's PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, October 25. We have Saturnalia on the PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, which is a horror game with a really cool art style. We have Signalis, an action game, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, October 27. Star Ocean, The Divine Force, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, October 27. One that I'm looking forward to, which is out tomorrow, 28th of October, Bayonetta 3 on the Switch. Can't wait to give that a go, getting great reviews across the board. We have Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which we spoke about tonight. That is a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Series X and S, Xbox One, PC tomorrow, unless you are a whale like myself and Troy that pre-purchased it to get the campaign early. We have Resident Evil Reverse on PS4, Xbox One, PC, October 28 also. And then we also have Resident Evil Village on Switch and Mac coming out tomorrow. And we also have Resident Evil Village, the Winter's Expansion for PS5, Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Stadia, and PC, which adds the long-awaited third-person mode to Resident Evil Village with its expansion. So very much looking forward to that. I'll probably, let's face it, pay the money to get the upgrade to pay that just to play the game for 15 minutes, see what it's like in third person, so I can tell you about it next week, because let's face it, I'm a bit of a whale.
I think you can download the demo, can't you, and play it at no cost, Dunky?
Provided you didn't finish the demo's time period last time, because if you played it already, it just sort of logs back into that same demo. So if you had 20 minutes left on that demo, you can still play that 20 minutes and in third person. But if you expired your time last time, you cannot do it again this time, which is quite weird.
How very odd.
I ask you lads just before we jump on. I know Resident Evil Village, beautiful looking game on the PlayStations and the Xbox. Who is looking forward to seeing how schmicko that runs on the Switch?
Yeah. What are you not buying?
Well, if you Teddy was sticking with Gotham Knights with that, I reckon I could walk faster than the phones. They're going to be jumping off the Switch with that.
Oh, yep.
All right. That must bring us to everyone's favourite segment. I believe we call it the stand.
Who will fight?
Geek, this week, who will fight?
Mate, before we get to this week, I did not get to watch last week's show. Who won the Batman standoff last week?
I believe we gave it to Arkham Asylum, did we not?
The first one, good, would have been my choice. So I'm happy you boys got that one right. All right, moving on to this week's one. It's spooky season. It's October. We're looking at the best game to play during this Halloween month.
Game 1 on this list.
Game 1, classic, Resident Evil 2. Arguably one of the best remakes ever made. I don't know
wait.
A remake standoff, but it's up there.
Come on, Unky, you got to give it to us in the proper Resident Evil voice when you say Resident Evil 2.
Resident Evil 2.
Nailed it, mate. Nailed it.
What a game. This is a good one to play this spooky season. If you are looking at playing a Resident Evil, this is probably the one I'd probably pick in this October. I mean, you could just play the one that comes out tomorrow, but it's up to you. I mean, each have their favourites. I would argue that this is probably my favourite Resident Evil of recent times. Obviously, 4 is getting a remake soon. I really love 4, but I think what they did with the remake was just incredible. And you might argue that the new Resident Evil Village might be good because it's now playing this third-person perspective, but that was made as a first-person game. This game was made as third-person, but some of the jump scares in this game, the puzzle solving, the atmosphere, it's just second to none. So you cannot go wrong with Resident Evil 2 this October.
Oh, indeed. I love it. But number 2 this evening is, in fact, Luigi's Mansion 3, Unky.
It's going to take a lot to beat Luigi's Mansion 3 this October, this Halloween. What a game. Let's face it, Halloween's for kids. And this game also, you could argue it's for kids, but also adults. So if you want something to play with the actual kids this Halloween, this is definitely the one. They can jump in as Luigi, or Luigi if you like. I'm a bit of a control freak, so I'm always playing as Luigi. Give the little fella Luigi, and he can help you out. But what a cute, fun little game like this. Again, we spoke about how Mario Rabbids is one of the best looking games on the Switch. This would definitely be up there as well. What a fun game, fun mechanics. Just it's got that haunted house vibe you want in a Halloween sort of game, and I can't speak more highly. I've recommended this game to pretty much anyone that owns a Switch, and what better time to play it than the spooky season? Bully, are you a fan of Luigi's Mansion?
Yeah, I am. I went back. I didn't play the original one on the GameCube until a couple of years ago. I played that and then played this one not long after that one. It's absolutely fantastic game for anyone that hasn't played it. It's funny, it's humorous. Like you said, it's perfect for kids. It's got the ghosts and the Halloween vibe, but it doesn't have the you're not going to scare the living
That's true.
out of your 6 or 7 year old while you're sitting down next to them. So it's not going to give them nightmares. And fantastic little game and good puzzles and a good atmosphere and I know I just bagged out the Switch, but they actually do. For the most part, with their first party games, they do look fantastic, and that cartoon style actually does hold up pretty well.
Yeah, it looks great. I love this game as well. The only other tip I can offer you with it is if you're watching movies and playing this at the same time, the Adam Sandler Vampire, what's the animation? There's like 3 or 4 of them now. Hotel Transylvania, that series, watch that while you're playing this. They go together beautifully. But game 3 or entrant 3 into the standoff this week, Unky, one of your favourites, Alan Wake.
Oh, definitely one of my favourites, and another great one for Halloween. It's a slightly different enemies to your other sort of games. There's no zombies in this one. You're dealing with shadow people and a whole weird story about a rider and stuff, but it's definitely got that Halloween sort of late night rainy vibe. If you want something sort of dark and brooding, jump in Alan Wake because there's a great story here, some great gameplay, and it's not as scary as some of these other games on this list, so you could probably get away with playing this one in the dark. Bully and Troy, I know you're both chickens when it comes to these kind of things, so this one's not too bad. They actually give you a torch to light it up the in-game world, so you don't have to feel too scared playing this one.
I have to knock you back there, mate. I tried playing this game with the lights off and it was a no-go. I have to.
it's all well and good it's all well and good that he's got a torch, but who's standing next to me trying to torch all the spooky corners of the room?
No, fair point.
All right, game 4 in the standoff this week is the Evil Within series.
Well, if you guys are playing Alan Wake with the lights on, this one you're definitely playing with lights on, The Evil Within. 1 or 2, the footage you're seeing on screen is number 2. I put this one down mainly because 2 is probably more sort of easy to get into sort of game. It's got more action stuff into it. The first one's spookier and scarier. It's just like the older game. So if you want to have fun this Halloween, popping off headshots and these weird looking monsters and something a bit more sort of scary in relation to that and not get too in your pants about, being in the light or dark or not. This one you could probably just survive in the light, maybe for you guys. I don't know. Great. I've spoken about this game a lot. I'm not sure. I think, Troy, you actually said this Halloween might be the time you were going to actually brush off the old Evil Withins because you haven't played yet. So are you considering this Halloween?
I was going to do it, and then I put Elden Ring in, and all my spare time just evaporated.
Fair. It does do that.
Well, something next is one of my favourites, Dead Space 2. Who doesn't like some Dead Space action?
Oh, we all love some Dead Space. We've got that remake coming out next year. So if you want to sort of warm those fingers up, getting ready for that and warm those eyeballs up, this is definitely one to jump into this Halloween as well. 1 or 2. Again, 2 has got the backwards compatibility frame rate bump, I think, on the Xbox. So you can play that in silky, smooth 60 frames per second, whereas the first one does give you that slightly less at 30 frames per second. But it kind of adds to the charm of the whole, third-person, grimy, disgustingness of that Halloween can bring. So you can't go wrong with either one of these. I know, Bully, you're a fan of Dead Space if you've got all the lights switched on. Is that correct?
Oh, I forgot all the lights switched on and, the kids sitting next to me jumping around and having a bit of frivolity. I get the willies and then Bully gets nightmares.
Have you finished the Dead Space games, Bully?
I don't think I ever played 3. I did 1 and 2, but I remember specifically with 1, I got to reckon about 3/4 of the way through the game and got myself into a position where, with the save system, I'd sort of, not that I really often do this, but I'd use one save state and got myself into a position where I got myself into a room where I had no ammo. And was just getting attacked left, right, and centre, and I couldn't get nothing I could do to get past it. I would have had to restart the game, and I think I just went, nah, I'm done.
They're great games. If you can push through, great stories. Even just crank the difficulty down if you like, because they're worth getting through just for that story. And you can probably easily punch out one of these games before the end of October if you so see fit.
Yeah, they were short games. Were they like 6-8 hours, something?
Yeah, I reckon they're between 8 to 10 hour games. Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. What about game 6? How long was the quarry, Unky?
Oh, it was a while. I think Bully's played this a lot more than I have now. I think I was very quick to jump on this as a potential game of the year for me, just the experience I had sitting down and playing it with the missus and making decisions together and stuff. And Bully's gone through and played it like 400 times, I think, and tried to get pretty much every possible ending. He's even messaging us this week saying they've added like some clothing packs or something to them just this week. I think it was because of Halloween was up. I don't know whether they're Halloween-based outfits or not, but if you want a really good story and sit down with the family and maybe not the young kids, it's not too gruesome with some of the stuff that happens. There's just some cool decisions to be made, and it's there's another game on the list that's obviously made by the same developer that's equally as good this Halloween season, but something a bit different on the list. It's way more narrative driven, but it's definitely got that sort of 80s sort of horror movie vibe that fit very nicely in the Halloween time.
Very nice. Now, one of my top runners for the year, Ghostwire.
I was going to see if Bully had anything to say about the quarry first.
My apologies, Bully. Sorry, mate. Your thoughts on the quarry?
All good. I know Wonky's a bit stretched for time, so I'll keep it quick. Fantastic game. Absolutely fantastic game. It was a 50s themed DLC release, which is
free, that's the one
for the characters that they've released. But echo your sentiments there. It's probably about a 10-hour playthrough. As you said, there's multiple endings to it depending on how you want to play it. And when it was released, I really got into it and wanted to see a lot of those endings and that sort of stuff. And it obviously depends how you play and the decisions you make, as with most of the supermassive games. But it's almost like watching a movie, and then you've got some interaction elements as well. I reckon it's fantastic, and I guess we'll vote on ours at the end. But I reckon this would be up there for me.
Fair enough. Then Ghostwire Tokyo, one of my Game of the Year contenders. I absolutely love this one, but obviously played it back in, March? When did this one come out? No.
Yeah, I think it was
January?
sort of.
It was early.
I reckon it was March, April or something. So you could probably speak to it more on it than I can. You've gone through and done the platinum as well. We both really enjoyed this game, obviously, more so than a lot of the other people out there. Really more of a Gotham, like the Gotham Knights sort of situation where we're enjoying it a lot more than the mainstream media. But no, really thoroughly enjoyable game, and does have that spooky vibe. It's you're dealing with ghosts and stuff like that pretty much throughout the whole game. So if you want something sort of a bit more differently paced and completely different to anything else on this list, definitely go for Ghostwire Tokyo.
The big thumbs up I'll give this one is I can play this one with the lights off, and to your point, mate, they're ghosts and they don't have that gory ending, so I don't get all creeped out. So Ghostwire Tokyo wins on the scary but not too scary front as well. All right, Bully, sorry, mate, I was going to do it again. Bully, any thoughts on Ghostwire, mate?
No. I was the same. I played through and finished it after sort of initially playing an hour or two and putting it to the side, but really enjoyed it. It's a very different sort of story. It's heavily, it's obviously set in Japan, but heavily Japanese influence with their style of horror. So if you want something that's a bit, like you said, a little bit left of center, and the storyline is not something you normally see in the mainstream unless you follow a lot of Japanese cinema, highly worthwhile playing through just for the story alone, I think.
Agreed. Number 8 this evening. Unky, is this one of your all-time favourites, I think?
It's definitely up there. This is where I fell in love with Supermassive Games, and it's the reason I love The Quarry so much. And I remember just seeing the first trailer for The Quarry and knowing it was a spiritual successor of this game. This is definitely up there still. It runs beautifully on the PS5 as well now at 60 frames per second. I don't even think The Quarry even hits that frame rate. I think The Quarry sits at 30 still. Bully could probably speak to that, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. But just the performances in this game as well, the story, the way it goes, the sort of supernatural stuff as well. It's got that spooky vibe throughout the whole thing, like Cabin in the Woods style. Very perfect for your sort of older gamer this October in Halloween as well. It'll sit side by side. The Quarry is one of the best experiences you can have with this kind of experience with the choose your own adventure style.
Excellent. Bully, your thoughts on Until Dawn, sir?
Oh, again, same as almost echo what Anki said. The gameplay, it probably doesn't quite have the graphical polish that The Quarry does, but having said that, for a game that's now what are you talking, sort of 6-7 years old, it still holds up really well. You can tell who the main actors are supposed to be with the video capture and that sort of stuff, and thoroughly agree with Anki. And it's as I said, it's the same as The Quarry. It's like watching an 80s teen horror flick, and it's got all those elements. It's got the little jump scares. It's got the teenage tropes and that sort of thing that you sort of almost expect it, but at the same time when you see it and you play through it, it's still enjoyable, even though you can see it coming a mile away. But again, I can't speak highly enough of Supermassive Games. The stuff that they put out, it's thoroughly entertaining. I think I've played this one through maybe 2 or 3 times, probably not as much as The Quarry, but still highly entertaining.
And their new game's out, I think, before the end of the year in December as well.
Oh, what's that one?
The next
good question.
Medan.
The next one in that
the little
series.
Dark Hope. I'm getting myself confused. Dark Pictures Anthology.
The new Dark Pictures Anthology game is out this December, I'm pretty sure as well. And that's looking very much Saw-like at the moment. So it's looking very cool. Can't wait for that one.
Coming out close.
Off the top of my head.
Close to the Callisto Protocol.
Yes. Oh, cannot wait. It's another good one for October, but unfortunately that comes out December.
Yes, good point. All right then, final entry for the week, number 9, Back for Blood.
What would Halloween be without zombies? We had to chuck something in there with zombies, and Back 4 Blood's one of the most fun I've had with video games this year. As we've all been aware, there's been a few streams from you boys playing it this year, and I've loved this game. I've played all the DLC this year when it came out as well. And if you want a fast-paced thing, join your friends for some Halloween fun without actually having to go out and hunt for candy in your neighbourhood. This is the best way to do it. Just go there, shoot some zombies in the face, and have a really, really good time, because this game's now more polished than it ever has been. There's an offline mode, so you don't have to play it online. online. Yeah, great game. Can't speak more highly of it. Just grab some friends and have some good Halloween time with this one because the shooting is second to none.
It is a fantastic game. I love it. And our pro tip was go and pick up the launch edition, which they're getting rid of cheap physically, and it includes the season pass, the DLC. That's been fantastic.
Now, I have to say, I was going to say, this is the end of this list, but it's not on there. Dying Light 2, which came out this year, is also another good one. They're actually doing a Halloween. They've got a Halloween special at the moment, I think, where all the zombies have been replaced with pumpkin heads. They've all got pumpkin heads at the moment for Halloween. So, yeah, if you want something new at the moment and jump back into a game that apparently still did come out this year, Dying Light 2 is another good one.
Excellent tip, mate. But that raises the question, who's going to win tonight's standoff, gentlemen? Where are the votes landing?
I know Bully's leaning towards the Quarry. For me, I'm gonna go. We're talking best game to play this Halloween. So if we're sort of leaning into what is Halloween, are we saying Halloween for the kids? Are we saying it's for the adults? If I'm saying Halloween, yeah, it's a holiday that's fun. It's around, the kids enjoy it. I'm saying I'm jumping into a Luigi's Mansion 3 with its haunted house style gameplay. Fits perfectly with the Halloween theme and just a great game to play for sort of young and old. But that's where I'm sort of leaning my votes, Bully.
I think I telegraphed it earlier on, and you nailed it on the head. I just think for the storytelling and the whole vibe of Halloween, and there's a bit of mystery happening in the background, and a bit of who's doing what, and all the rest of it as it slowly plays itself out in the story. I just can't go past the Quarry. It looks good. As I said, it's like watching a movie that you actually get to interact with and play through. And I think, for a lot of people, they might have their Halloween movie that they chuck on every year on the 31st and play through that, whichever sort of horror movie it is. But I reckon this would be up there with that as well, is that you could probably play through it once a year on Halloween and you'd get through it in a night, and you get a different experience every time you play it, depending on how you want to play it. So, I mean, that's probably where I'd land, but I could be swayed your way, Unky, with the...
mate, I was just going to say, I could almost be swayed your way, because I like the idea of the whole, like, watching the same horror movie, but playing the same game each year and having a different experience. It's also, you almost got me.
I'll retract my, I could be swayed then.
It depends. We've got Troy. Troy's the swing vote. Where's he sitting?
Well, you had me, mate. You're Luigi's Mansion 3 for me, because to your point, mate, I love Halloween, spending it with the kids and, running around causing chaos with the young men. And I love playing Luigi's Mansion with my boys. So Luigi's Mansion for me. If I'm sitting down this weekend to play some horror games, it'd be Luigi's Mansion 3 for me, definitely.
All right, I reckon it's going to maybe have to go Luigi's Mansion. Bully did say it could be swung before he retracted that statement.
Well, I'm going to have to re-push forward my whatever it is.
Untracked.
Luigi's Mansion.
Luigi's Mansion 3, if I could scroll back up and see, it was number 2.
Number 2.
Luigi's Mansion 3. A winner is you for this week's Standoff Best Horror Game. That's right. If you've got a Switch out there, get your hands on some Luigi's Mansion 3. That will do it for the Standoff, which brings us back to audience interrogation. Unky, what has been happening in that there YouTube chat, sir?
I'll leave this one to Bully. I think he's been in the chat a bit in the night, keeping him at bay there. So, I'll let Bully take this.
Fantastic.
I'll try to. I've got a bit of chat there. I know Sean Games, he's said he's looking forward to the Call of Duty campaign as well, and the multiplayer. He's on the PC, so he needs to wait for that one. Where are we? So just sort of flicking through there. A bit of Sean Games has got in there quite a bit, but we've got Rick Grimes in there saying g'day. We've got Matt47 who's jumped in there, was talking about the 30 frames per second on the games we were talking about, very bad, and that CD Projekt Red teetering on the edge because of Cyberpunk 27 and their share prices, etc., etc. Sean Games is asking, did you end up getting the DSM for both of you guys? I'm not sure if you picked that up or not.
Getting the which one, sorry, mate?
The Deer Simulator that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago.
I don't think I was on that episode.
No, I can't remember how it got picked up, but he's asking if you played it, and and he's saying it's the best game and it's his game of the year. So if either of you boys were sitting on the fence with it, Sean is highly recommending that one. And last but not least, we've got Tigaro. Hopefully I've pronounced that properly for you. He's looking forward to the Resi 4 remake in March next year. Is the one he's looking at, and he's shared it to Unky. Project Frame or Project Zero or Fatal Frame was a game that apparently you two were talking about a little while ago. And the last one, I think we'll say Matt47, just on the last lot of games we were looking at there, Until Dawn. He said that the latest update or patch has made it almost unplayable, which would be very unfortunate if that is the case. I haven't played it for probably 2 or 3 years now, but if that was the case, I'd be very disappointed because it's a favourite of mine. But that's it for the chat for tonight.
Fantastic. Well, that'll do it then for another episode of the Gaming Enforcement Agency. Unky Dunky, sir, thank you for joining us.
No worries, mate. I'm off duty, so I can go on duty.
Perfect. Fully, mate. Thank you as well.
Thank you very much. And off duty, and I'm going to bed.
Perfect. I'm off duty as well. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. What else can you do with the channel, Unky Dunky?
You can like it, subscribe it, and you'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something. I love everything about it. Ooh. Old Uncle Dunky. Unky Dunky.